Thank you for joining a conversation about practicing the words, works, and ways of Jesus. I'm Steve Griffin, and this is Formation Through Following. Hey friends, let's talk about the hellacious problems of eternal conscious torment. You know, I think most Christians who believe in hell as eternal conscious torment do so not because they like the teaching and not because they understand how such a doctrine could be right, but because they think they must. That is to say, they think the Bible requires them to believe this. I used to be in that camp. I used to think the Bible taught that in hell we will suffer eternal conscious torment. Well, I'm no longer in that camp. And it's not because I am believing something new. It's because I'm believing something ancient. And that's something that I would like to get across to you, and something that I remind myself of, is that just because something is new to us doesn't mean it's new. And so this doctrine that I now believe regarding hell is something ancient, something that the earliest Christians believed. Apokatastasis. That's a Greek term for the restoration of all things. And I think my understanding of hell as it presently is much more in line with the character of Jesus as revealed to us in the Gospels. And the character of God is the character of Jesus. Jesus most clearly reveals who God is. He is the highest revelation of God possible. I also want to say here, as I'm starting this conversation, I actually began it last week, but this little hell series that I'm in the midst of, I also want to say that I think most Christians who believe in hell as eternal conscious torment probably don't. They think they believe in eternal conscious torment, but I think really they don't. If you truly believed that people you know and love are being burned alive right now because they died, at some time in the past, never since their death, they have been burning alive. And they will continue to burn alive for eternity. I think if these good people really believed that, they would go mad. There are things that we think we believe, and then there are things that we actually believe. So I want to think about some hellacious problems with eternal conscious torment. The first is an existential problem. The existential problem, the existence problem, the essence problem. I'm thinking about it in two ways. One, the person who was cast into eternal conscious torment, I don't see how that could be the same person living in eternal conscious torment. I'm thinking about, different interviews that I've seen of prisoners, the lifers. I've seen a handful where the inmate looks into the camera and he just says, I'm not the same person who committed this awful crime. He's not denying that the crime was committed. But he is saying, oh, that silly kid who committed that horrible act decades ago. I'm not that kid anymore. And I believe him. He's not the same person. So you see what I'm getting at? The person who was cast into eternal conscious torment would not be the same person who is living in eternal conscious torment. I'll go a step further. Because living in prison is one thing. But suffering eternal conscious torment, not only would they not be the same person who was cast into a hell of that kind, loved ones, I don't really see how they could actually even be a person at all. How would they still be a person? I've known people who were suffering intense physical and therefore mental pain. And if they were not to get relief soon, thankfully they did through modern medicine, but if they were not to get relief soon, they would have lost their minds. You imagine a person being burned alive forever? How would they even be human? What would be left of their humanity? Their minds would be gone. They would be nothing but shells of a human. That's a hellacious problem. I've got 3 or 4 more hellacious problems with eternal conscious torment, but I'll get to those in the next few podcasts. So that's all for now. Leave a comment or question and join the conversation. Until next time, show the world a Jesus-looking God.